next trilogy, The Undertaker and Triple H. So, coming in at number 3 is from WrestleMania 27, The Undertaker versus Triple H. Alrighty, so I believe that I actually disagree with this one. So I actually rank their 17 match over this. No, not the 17. My least favorite actually was the 28 match, End of an Era. All right, so but we took it to social media because the man 0001, he felt number 3 was going to be is 27. Pretty much is where he ranked, and man 0001 looks like social media agreed with you when I did this. So talking about Undertaker and Triple H's match here, what comes to me, the first word that comes to me about this match is maturity. That's what this felt like compared to their first match. I'll talk more about that, but this one felt like maturity. It definitely, and you could tell because they were more matured seasoned veterans at this time, and they were in different places at this point. So this is the story. Triple H is trying to avenge his loss of his best friend retiring at the hands of the Undertaker. What I will say about the build-up, and this is things that I did not like during the Vince McMahon, particularly that last decade that he was booking, that something I'm very appreciative that Triple H now does, is I hate it, and I still hate it, that they did not at all recognize or acknowledge that these two men had fought 10 years prior. Just imagine how much better the buildup could have been if they would have acknowledged that, okay, Triple H is now back 10 years later to try and take it out. Like, I understand the focus was him and Taker and him trying to avenge Shawn, but they just ignored all of the Vince McMahon. I guess it was said that he wasn't a fan of the whole biker gimmick for the Undertaker, but I like history. I think we all love history. I remember doing a class project back in my time in art college. We were doing something for advertisement or something like that, and I was like, hey, look at this. This is everybody that Taker beat, but I put an X sign over the 17. I'm like, that's what they're trying to do. Yeah, it was some sort of like art that we were trying to, like, what would try to convey a message, and that was my way of conveying the message that WWE is ignoring their history. But in terms of the match, Triple H comes on out, and you only saw this on the pay-per-view live. Undertaker comes out to Johnny Cash, ain't no grave can hold my body down. Like, oh my gosh, it fit so much for this build-up. Love seeing Taker come out to that. Unfortunately, you can only find it if you have a feed of it on pay-per-view, which man 0001, he was with us. You were with me and our friends when we watched it. But yeah, the thing about this is when the match gets going, I thought this was a very suspenseful match, and more suspenseful than the 17 match, which is why I like it better. Man, there were so many great moments. Triple H and Taker go out there. They didn't go out there and wrestle the clinic that Shawn and Taker put on the 2 years prior, but as a brawl, man, these guys went at it from doing the and I think we could see, because physically this is post Triple H with having 2 quads repaired. Taker, you know, both these guys had a lot of mileage on their body, so physically they weren't going to be doing what they did in their 17 match, but man, they still hit each other hard, going through the tables, the spine buster off of the steel steps through the announce table. They brought in some of the chair spots, doing the last rides, just going back, pedigrees, kicking out of the finishers. It was just crazy. And I think the most crazy moment of the match is when Triple H, I think, reversed the Undertaker into the tombstone, and we get that shot from the hard camera. He goes like, it's over, and he hits him with the tombstone. I remember, man, 0001, you, me, our friends, we were all like, oh, like, are they gonna really end it? They got us for that moment. Like, wow, okay, that was a great near fall in this match, man. It was crazy. It had me on the edge of my seat in a way that first match didn't. And at this point, yeah, the streak was a much bigger deal. They were just starting to acknowledge it, but man, I was on the edge of my seat through the whole match. They did a great job of making Triple H look like a beast, that Undertaker was struggling so hard to beat him, and in the end, they did the callback where he gets the sledgehammer and Taker puts him in the Hell's Gate, and we're like, oh, is he gonna get him? Is he gonna get him? You know, Shades, this is what we were talking about recently we didn't do it on my live stream, but because we're doing this stream after WrestleMania. Recently, Jey Uso defeated Gunther, locked into submission, and then immediately Gunther tapped out, and it's like, oh, okay, you screwed all the drama. This right here is a great example of how you do a submission, and if you're trying to build the most out of your drama. Taker gets Triple H locked in the Hell's Gate, and Triple H is getting the sledgehammer constantly. He's fading, but then he's staying in there, and he's fading, and he's staying in there, and it's like he's gonna gonna get him? Is he gonna get Taker? Is he gonna get him? And then he fades off, and the referee drops the arm down for the 3, and it's over. Undertaker has defeated Triple H. No, he actually taps out at the end. He's going out, so he does a light tap out, and he wins by submission. What a great way to build drama, and I think that's the type of submission finish we would have loved to have seen in Jey Uso versus Gunther. But staying focused on here with the Trilogy, this was phenomenal. I still think it is an amazing, suspenseful roller coaster ride. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think actually, this was my favorite. This is actually my favorite. Looking back on the notes here, this was my favorite of the Undertaker Triple H match. I thought that there was just a level of suspensefulness. This match, I think it had the best balance of what we got in their first and third matches at WrestleMania. But yeah, this is my favorite one. I thought these guys put on a suspenseful, excellent story. Absolutely. And then with that said, man, 0001, let's go ahead and hear your perspective on this, because I think from your ranking listing, you put this as your, this was your actual ranking. You felt that this was your third favorite, least favorite of the Undertaker Triple H matches, but you rank it number 3rd. So let's hear what you thought about this one.
Yeah, so as I go through this match, I watch it and everything else. Going back to see it, it's wild, You know what I mean? I look at it and WrestleMania 27, not the best show, but it did have some hidden gems on there, and this was one of those gems. And when you see this match right here, you see that, like you said earlier, they have a lot of mileage on them. And you have, in the story going into this, is Triple H is trying to avenge Shawn Michaels. But the problem is, this is a match that's been done at WrestleMania before. And when you have a match that's been done at WrestleMania before, you definitely should acknowledge the previous one. And, definitely make sure you, let's see, when I say acknowledge, this is how I acknowledge the tribal chief now. Because we still put up the ones. We just put up the middle ones now. That's what we do. But anyways, though, you should, you definitely should acknowledge and understand that, they have history there, and that's something that you can build off of, But, my best guess as to why they didn't acknowledge the previous match that they had at WrestleMania was because the Undertaker was back to being his dead man again. His dead man character over his, his American badass character. So when I go back and I watch this, when I go back and I watch this match, it's definitely a stunner. It's definitely a stunner. It's definitely a show stealer for sure. Because you have Triple H and like you have Triple H, on the downside of his career, he's more of a corporate executive. This time around, he's starting to get more into the corporate side of things. And he's starting to become the Triple H more of the Triple H we know nowadays, as opposed to the cerebral assassin of the past. I mean, he'd go on and still have some bangers in the future, but his career is starting to wind down. This is the Undertaker's first match back as a part-timer, because in 2010, he had, that was his last year as a full-time wrestler, and he started becoming more of a part-timer. We started seeing less of him. So, less and less of them. I mean, that's the only match he wrestled that year, was that match, against Triple H. So he was on essentially what CM Punk calls the Santa Claus schedule, so it was just like, definitely for sure. When you watch this match, it's a show stealer and it's a stunner. Unfortunately, for this match, they put on 2 other matches, in my opinion, that were much better. So it's a stunner, but it's not the number 1 stunner. So it's just like, yeah.
All right, good. Go ahead, and good perspective on that one. So yeah, WrestleMania 17. So yeah, we got more to say. So the one thing that we actually did agree, and we didn't have to go to social media for this one, is our number 2 entry on this list for Undertaker to Triple H at WrestleMania 17. Oh boy, I'm ready to have some fun with this one, because like I mentioned, there was a sense of maturity in terms of the Undertaker and Triple H in WrestleMania 27. But in 17, they are 10 years younger, and boy, this match is not about avenging friends and legacy. This match is about who the best one. When the fight starts off with Triple H going like, Rock, Austin, I have beaten all your heroes, and now I am the best. And then the Undertaker comes on out. He says, you ain't never beaten me. I ain't no Brahma Bull. I'm no people's champion. I'm no rattlesnake. I'm the dead man, and I will make you famous. You see, while you were up here going ahead scratching and clawing, and he looks over to Stephanie and sleeping your way to the top back when that insult was fresh. And Stephanie's like, oh, and he goes like, he says, I was out here doing my thing. I think they call it a dead man of destruction. He says, and if you want to try me, gets up in Triple H's face, I'll make you famous. And Triple H's retort is, the problem, dead man, is your yard is in the middle of my ring. And then eventually he jumps Taker, puts the chair over him. He says, you're the people that make people famous. Is that right? Well, you mess with me and I will cripple your ass. I'm like, yo, is there any more testosterone, more driven way to build up a match than that one? Like, that's what this first match was. It's like, you think you're the best, you want to jump? Taker like, well, I'll jump. What's good? What's good? And this is what I call, this is the what's good homie match, right? Because that's what the build-up was. But this was perfect because Rock and Stone Cold were your top two biggest stars, and right under there was Triple H and Taker. They weren't the guys, but they were a tremendous supporting cast. And when I think of, as far as talent, Mount Rushmore of the Attitude Era, I go with Austin, Rock, Triple H, Taker. And so what better way to co-main event WrestleMania 17 than with Undertaker and Triple H? And this was good. And the entrances, Motorhead, and a lot of people I know that will clown Motorhead because he only kept saying, it's time to play the game. You know, it starts off, dude, even the way this match starts off, the music production, we are Motorhead, and we're gonna kick your ass. And it's time to play the game. Like, that was good stuff. And Triple H comes out, good. I love the performance, even if he was mostly saying it's time to play the game. The Undertaker comes out to Limp Bizkit, keep rolling. Like I said, this is just two dudes, young dudes, just wanting to beat the crap out of each other to prove whose game it is, whose yard this really is. And they do this amazing shot of Undertaker with his motorcycle just driving right down the long ramp. And the match is pretty much a brawl. And like I said, looking at this match physically, they didn't have to rely on weapons a lot. They were able just to go out there because they were a lot more healthier than they would be 10 years later, and they just went at it. Just really tremendous stuff. Like, you just feel the power. Like, these guys, they fight like two dudes that don't hate each other. And I'm like, I do miss sometimes this aspect of the business when like those just two big alpha males wanting to try at each other, and you know no one's gonna back down. Who's gonna go at it? Like, it was just fun stuff in the Attitude Era. Now there are some silly parts in this match. Referee Mike Chioda gets knocked down, and man, that guy was out for a good probably 15 minutes. Longest rep bump ever in terms of how much he stayed down. And that was a plot device so that Taker and Triple H could go and fight into the crowd and brawl, and they go on this platform. Now, as a kid, I thought it was fantastic. Undertaker does this choke slam with Triple H over the platform. I'm like, that's awesome. And it took me watching back now from watching other reviews. They mentioned how, well, the problem with that thing is they do a replay that shows Triple H landing on the crash mat, and Taker does an elbow, and both guys are just bouncing off of this mat, and they're fighting, and every time they go down to the ground, you know, the commentators, they're trying to sell it. They're like, oh my gosh, they just did an elbow. Oh my gosh, they're just bamming each other right down to the ground. But you see them bouncing up and down on the crash mat. So, you know what? I still think this match is awesome regardless. And then they get into it, and Taker's bleeding. And I remember, man, Triple H, it looks like Taker's not, he breaks out the tombstone for the first time in a long time. And Undertaker, he's looked like he's been had it, very much so like they would 10 years later. Triple H, Taker's out of the ring, he's busted open, and they're doing a good job of making it look like Triple H has got him. He gets the sledgehammer, I think he goes for the sledgehammer, and he nails Taker in the back from the last ride. And then that's when it gets to the corner. And the way Taker does the last ride, he lifts Triple H up and goes down to his knees, and then boom, slams Triple H down to his back. 1, 2, 3. Taker becomes 9-0 and rides literally off into the sunset for this match at WrestleMania 17. What a fun match. Like, I like Rock and Austin's match at WrestleMania 17, but this was good. Like, this was also like just as a swan song to the Attitude Era, Undertaker Triple H. This was cool because it's like the first big program they had one-on-one as established main eventers. This was this was fun. It was a lot of fun to go back and watch. I do agree, it's my second favorite. I even enjoyed it more than the end of an era match. I know that will probably be a controversial statement because of the emotion that one brings, but I think in terms of just the action we got here, man, this was fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it. It's a fun time. It's the funnest, I think, of the Undertaker and Triple H. It doesn't put me on the emotional roller coaster that the other two do, but it was certainly a fun one indeed. All right, man, 0001, you were there live, obviously, at WrestleMania 17 for this one in person. You agreed, we both agreed, this is our second favorite of the Taker and Triple H trilogy. What is your thoughts seeing this one in person?
Okay, seeing this one in person is like this. From where I was sitting, I'm just over there and I'm looking. You know, it's like when you're sitting there, you got to like follow where they're at, or you got to look at the Tron. And, you know, so for me, part of this was spent looking at the Tron, looking at the big old screen at top. And, you know, and you go there and you see those things. And I'm just there and I see, Rock and, and Austin, on the main event. But we see Triple H and The Undertaker, and we're like, okay, what are they going to do? Like earlier, you kind of flubbed on it, and you said you think a dead man knows a decade of destruction. See, that right there is a decade of destruction. And, and he says, I heard you're a man that makes people famous. Well, I'm going to be made, I'm famous too. I'm going to be made famous for crippling your ass, as he has him there. And the build up where, they try to have the Undertaker have a restraining order against Stephanie McMahon, and then you have Kane in the build up as well with Stephanie McMahon, or a mannequin of Stephanie McMahon over his head while he's up there, and he's like, yeah, send her down and everything. So it's just like, this match right here is a match that, it's what some people call the people's main event. It was called main event, but this right here is what's called people's main event. Like it's not quite on the level of importance that Rock and Austin was, but it was fun. So they knock Mike Chioda out. You know what I mean. Like Mike Chioda tends to go out like all Attitude Era refs. They tend to have glass jaws and glass chins. They go out rather quickly. They go down rather easily. A swift, strong breeze could carry them away. The sunlight, even though it's a dome stadium, the sunlight can get in their eye. Hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil. They just are. They're just so flimsy, back in the day. So this is what like I say, when I go ahead and I watch this match, they use that as a plot device in order for them to be able to brawl all over the arena. One of the funniest things in this match is I think they rebuilt the Spanish announce table on one of the regular tables, and they try to use that as a table for a table spot, which I thought was hilarious. You know what I mean? And then you have them go over to the scaffold. That's the little platform they're on. It's called scaffold. That's how they get things high up. It's part of the production truck. They go over there, and like the Undertaker gives Triple H a choke slam off of that. You know what I mean? They could have done a little bit of a better job concealing that. I don't know, put some plywood by there on top of there or something like that. Make it look a little bit more believable. But yeah, you got the scaffolding there, and then you have like people don't know that the Undertaker was actually busted up going into this match. That's why he was busted open, because if you look closely, he actually had stitches on his forehead going in there, and then Triple H opened them back up, I think by mistake. But then again, it kind of adds to the drama of the match. And then then he's in the corner giving him the 10 punches. But also, and then he wins the match with the get the F down last ride. So definitely for sure, I love that match. And also, I love watching Motorhead in person. You know what I mean? That's one of my favorite bands. Some people are like, "Hey, botched over their lines." No, they did what they were supposed to do. It's all about the game. Let's see, we are Motorhead, and we're gonna kick your ass. So now. Let's see. So we have that entrance, and that entrance was sick. And a lot, what a lot of people don't know is this match almost didn't come to be. It was actually supposed to be Triple H versus Mike Tyson, and you know what I mean. And it was changed to Triple H versus the Undertaker pretty much in the 11th hour. Similar to a certain other match that will go on, earlier that night. But we're not going to get into this. We'll story for another day. But yeah, you go ahead and you watch Motorhead in person, and you watch them give this awesome intro. Like, yeah, you know what I mean. So watching them perform here, and then watching them perform at WrestleMania 21 was amazing. So, you know what I mean. If you ever get a chance to do it, definitely do it. I mean, most recently, CM Punk coming out to Cult's Personality twice with the joins the two-time club for two-timers when it comes down to live intros. But definitely this match was it was on fire. It was pure electricity. It was fire, and it was like you had two hosses going out there. And what I mean, unfortunately Triple H got injured later on that year, but definitely, if you got a chance, go back and watch this match. You will have a lot of fun watching it. Go back and watch all of the Raws, the SmackDowns, and all of the shows. And also, here's another nugget. If you went to WWF Fan Access back in the day, because I like to use the terminology. If you went to WWF Fan Access back during that time, they had Triple H and the Undertaker fight each other at WWF Fan Access too.
Wow, I didn't see that one.
Cool. Oh yeah, they did. Let's see. One of them was doing their set for autographs and photos, and the other just came right over there and they started fighting. So it's like they did everything they could do to make this match mean so much more, and they delivered.
Fantastic. Thanks for giving us that perspective. Yeah, I didn't even know that. Yeah, fun match indeed. And now we get to the number one entry on this list, which was an emotional roller coaster, arguably the most emotional match out of all their matches at WrestleMania Trilogy. So in terms of the build-up, you talk about video packages. I went back and watched the video packages that they did with this with Metallica. What was the song they used for this one? It was with the Metallica thing,
Hell's Bell.
I think that was for like one of the intro, but it was what was it? Fortune, fame. What was that? In the memory remains. Yeah, the memory remains. They used for
yeah.
Man, that was fantastic. Just a tremendous intro. I watched that video package, and I forget how good that was at just really putting together everything Triple H and Taker did in their career and showcasing Hell in a Cell. And I remember we were on the phone with our boy Lennox at the time, watching this Raw, and I'm like, I'm not feeling another Taker Triple H match because I just like the idea of Undertaker defeating multiple opponents instead of facing the same people. And then they announced Hell in a Cell. I'm like, whoa, because now I instantly went from being a young adult to a little kid, because as a kid and a teenager, all I wanted to think about were, it was most of when I was a teen, I was thinking about, holy crap, get Triple H and Taker, the masters of the Hell in a Cell. And I'm like, holy crap. And then they got Shawn Michaels involved as the referee, and we were off to the races. And really, you needed the Hell in a Cell to build up to this match, and it was a great way to tie everything in. And the match, man, it had a lot of suspense. It was an emotional roller coaster ride. Shawn Michaels as a referee was fantastic. It was more or less a little bit less maybe what we were getting in their previous match of the year, WrestleMania 27, using a lot of steel chairs, using the steel chairs, using the steel steps, fantastic stuff there. And of course, I think the biggest moment that a lot of people always talked about with this match is when Triple H and Taker, they end up like pushing Shawn Michaels around to the point it's like, all right, whose side are you gonna be on? And when Shawn gets up, Taker, I believe, is about to go for the tombstone. Triple H gets behind him, pushes him into Shawn, and Shawn nails him with the sweet chin music that repels Taker back into the pedigree. And we were with our friends at the time watching live, man, Triple 01. I remember we was like, oh, not like this, and because like there was not a lot of of I'm thinking there was not a lot of near falls that I'm like he's not gonna beat Taker. I'm like, that's not gonna do it. Pedigree there. He's gonna kick out of the choke slam there. But when that happened, like, oh snap, they wouldn't end it like this with a team move. And it's 1, 2, and Taker kicks out, and Shawn does this whole thing where he's like turning 360, and the crowd is going wild, and Jim Russell's like on commentary like, my God, oh, that was so close. I was like, whoa, what one of the greatest near falls in just WrestleMania Undertaker streak history. Like that was a good near fall that did get me in the moment. And it was more or less from the same, just going back and forth. Triple H was bleeding a little bit from the head and everything like that. And I think at the end, it gets to the point where Shawn Michaels is begging Triple H off. He said, just finish him. Just finish it. You know he's not going to quit. And Triple H is like, no, then you finish it. And Taker's like, don't stop Shawn, over and over. And eventually Taker gets a second win. He comes back with Triple H, and I think he nails him with the sledgehammer. And he eventually gets that final tombstone. 1, 2, 3. The match is over. And we get the emotional sense at the end where Shawn, you know, he did it even though it was his best friend. He picks Taker up, and then they pick Triple H up, and we see them three walking together as warriors who have respect for the battles they've been through. And they look into the audience, and then they do that huge embrace. They hug, and it was just a tremendous moment, a tremendous way to end that story. You know, I like, for me, I'm glad that the story ended here, because it would have been a shame if 6 years later Taker or Triple H decided to come back and run the match back in Australia. And just imagine how much even more of a shame it would have been if after that Shawn Michaels came out of retirement and they threw Kane in there with a tag team match. Like, I'm glad that didn't happen, and that this is the de facto way that this story ends. If you see what I did there. This right here is the ending. This is the true ending of the Undertaker, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels trilogy. I did not watch that last tag team match, so and I still, until this day, I have not seen it. And apparently, from everybody,
what match?
I'm not missing anything. Exactly.
What match? We
don't talk about that here. Right?
We don't know. We don't know what that is. You know,
right?
That must have been universe mode or something.
Could have been, yeah. But yeah, this was awesome. In terms of the emotional storytelling they told, and very much, I think for me, like Rock and Triple H, this was not. I don't think this is the best of their matches. But it was a great way to go out. The storytelling was on point. It is definitely the best emotionally driven story match. But ultimately, like I said, on my personal list, I rank this as my least favorite. And here's my thing about this match. It is advertised as a Hell in a Cell match, and I have often agreed with, shout out to my boy Aaron Riff of NoDQ.com, the Hell in a Cell was just there for decoration. They advertised a Hell in a Cell match, and they hardly utilized the Hell in a Cell. And to me, there's nothing in this match that really took place that couldn't have been done if it was just another no holds barred match and Shawn Michaels is a special guest referee. As far as I'm concerned, the Hell in a Cell, as a Hell in a Cell match, this is not it for me. As a regular match where I excuse the Hell in a Cell and I don't think about the Hell in a Cell, it's a tremendous match. Like I said, I still would put it not over the 17 and 27 matches. I think from an in-ring standpoint, those matches delivered better. This one had the story drama. I think that's why I like the 27 match better. It kind of has that emotional story drama telling that you get in the 28 match, but you get a little bit more physicality. Not that the physicality wasn't on point with this match, but you also get some of that from the 17 match. I just think the 27 match was better balanced, if that makes sense. But the 28 match still was phenomenal. And yeah, I don't want to discard what these guys did physically, because them chair shots Taker took to the back where he got bruised was absolutely brutal from Triple H. So by all means, the physicality was still on point with this one. But yeah, man, this is like you give us a ladder match, and the ladder just stays put for the whole ring, and these guys go out, and two guys or two gals go out there and wrestle a really competitive technical wrestling match, and then once the opponent is down, they grab the ladder and they go and climb it. Not really a good ladder match, but it was a great match in terms of the drama they had with the technical, versus like, look at recently we were there, Royal Rumble in Indianapolis. Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, they didn't do a lot of high spots with their ladder match, but they constantly used the ladder to just brutalize each other before Cody eventually finally goes up and grabs it, and at least the ladder was utilized. just was not a lot with the Hell in a Cell. I think they went out a little bit. They maybe threw each other into the cell, but I mean, man, example is if you look at the most recent Hell in a Cell match we got with Triple H, I mean with CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, that's an example of a Hell in a Cell match where they were brutal. They utilized the cell a lot in that match, and it was mostly still in the ring and inside the cell. They didn't have to do any big crazy spots off the cell, but man, yeah, I just felt like the cell was there for decoration. They didn't utilize. We've seen much bigger Triple H and Taker Hell in a Cell matches, and I'm not even including like the HBK and the Mankind. We don't have to have these big spots to have a fantastic Hell in a Cell match, but man, they hardly utilize it. I mean, we got more utilization, I think, out of the cell in the Shane McMahon match he would have a few years after this. So man, and a lot of people said this was a great way to probably end Taker's streak if they would have gone that route. This was a great way, I think, to end the trilogy. So yeah, the Hell in a Cell aspect of this match just didn't do it for me, and I do think that harms this match a little bit. But as far as the storytelling that we got within the Hell in a Cell in that ring, fantastic, amazing story class, really enjoyed it. But that's my perspective. I'm assuming the one that and this is the reason why I got number one, because that's what most people on social media voted as number one. Man 0001, you said this is your favorite, and social media agrees with you that this is your favorite. So let's hear your perspective on why you think this is the greatest Triple H and Taker match of the trilogy.
Okay, let's see. This right here is the greatest because again, this right here has a sense of finality. When it comes down to it, these guys are winding their careers down. This is truly the end of an era, and and you have all three. Because you have Shawn Michaels, who just ended his career a couple of years prior. Then you have, he's reffing this match. He's had WrestleMania matches against both of these guys. He's had Hell in a Cell matches against both of these guys. So, so definitely, he's a guy that definitely should be the person that's in there. That's number one. And number two, and number three, this is again a sense of finality. The Undertaker is on what CM Punk again calls Santa Claus schedule, where he comes around only once a year. And Undertaker matches are starting to become fleeting. They're becoming very few and far between. You have Triple H and The Undertaker. These are two stalwarts of the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era. And these are guys who are the cornerstones of those eras. These are the guys that, through their bodies of work, they went ahead and they gave us stars like John Cena and like Batista and Randy Orton through their feuds. They gave us guys like Edge. They helped those guys reach that next level. And these are guys that are on the, they're on a decline when it comes down to their ring career. I mean, The Undertaker, he would go on to retire in 2020, and then you had Triple H retire a couple of years after that, formally retire a couple of years after that. Mm-hmm. So, what you have here is this is truly the end of an era, because everything that they would do after this would be to build up the next era. But would be to build up the next Stars of Tomorrow. Because they had already built up the stars of today during that time, what was the current time of that timeline. And, when I watch, when it comes down to levels of importance, and then you have Shawn Michaels there. And then when it comes down to drama, it felt like it was high drama. It was that one part of the match where you have Shawn Michaels hit a sweet chin music and then to a Triple H pedigree. And it's like, holy smokes, at that point in time, you felt like if that couldn't end the streak, nothing will, But we'd find out 2 years later, right. So the streak would end. But you have the Undertaker streak there, so and then you have Triple H trying to figure out who he is. He's kind of hanging on. He's kind of just trying to figure out everything else. Because this is Triple H more and more going into a corporate role, going into a backstage role, and this is the Undertaker more so just on a decline in his career. And and you have that. You have two guys that can go out on their own shield. No pun intended. Go out on their own. Why not? Why not? Because you know what I mean. Because it shouldn't take. You know what I mean. Why not? So definitely. So definitely, it's right here how it ranks high, because this is a high drama match, because you have them go out there and you have them put on the best matches. Despite being two guys in their 40s, You have guys, they're going out there and they show, hey, we still got it, we can still do it, and and also, but we're getting up there in age, and and Father Time loses to no man. Unless you get out when you can. Father Time is undefeated, so you definitely got to go ahead and you got to make the most of it. So this right here, much like the Rock versus Austin match at WrestleMania 19, this is this right here is the end of an era, and it's the end of an era for these two guys, as full time competitors. Because if you look into the next upcoming years, Triple H is as an in ring competitor would be his role would be greatly diminished as he would drift more and more into the backstage stuff. So definitely. So this is the end of his era, and this is also the end of the Undertaker's era as well. The Undertaker would spend his time, you know, like, you know, helping the next build up the next generation and the current generation. I mean, he would go on the next year and have a banger with CM Punk, and then and then he would go on and have, now right there would be like his last great WrestleMania match. So like this right here is like, the penultimate last great Undertaker WrestleMania match. So definitely go check this out. If you're a fan of the Attitude era or Ruthless Aggression era or even the New Generation era, go check this out. These guys are definitely guys that put their bodies on the line for our entertainment. And these are guys that inspired us during tough times in our life, and you should go check this out. Because it's not, because it's right here. And the reason why I make this number one is this. The WrestleMania 27 match was high drama. Was high drama, but was of high importance. The WrestleMania 17 match was high drama and a lot of fun. This match was high drama and high importance. It's both of those things put together. So, like, definitely, when you have something that's of high importance and high consequence, that's what puts this match as number one. And plus, you know what I mean. Plus, like, the Hell in a Cell stipulation was there, not just even if it was just a backdrop. It's still, it represent, during a time where you had the pay-per-view Hell in a Cell, where you had a Hell in a Cell that needed a match. This right here was a match that needed a Hell in a Cell, so we could have finality.
At least this did matter for the match, because at the time, a lot of those cell matches were just there to be there because it's a pay-per-view. Good point on that one.
So this right here needed to have an era of finality to it. It needed to matter. And that's what, that's why the Hell in a Cell stipulation be in there. It adds adds a level of finality, and it adds a level of importance, So definitely go check this out if you can.
Good. Well said. I'm glad to hear. Like I said, even though I wish the cell match would have played a bigger role in the match, I did like your take of it being a nice backdrop, basically for what it meant for all three of these guys in their career and stuff like that. And yeah, like I said, it's just a shame that unfortunately this isn't where they ended it for the overall feud. Because I love me a good ending, and if the ending was good, I don't think there's no reason to go back to it. But in terms of trilogy, this was a really good ending. Number 2 rank for the WrestleMania all-time trilogies, The Undertaker versus Triple H. So we agree that this is our second favorite. So yeah, this was right here. Fantastic stuff from two of the all-time great legends. So I can say Triple H and Undertaker, they had a lot of great moments, a lot of great matches with a lot of other people. But you know what? This trilogy here is just only one piece of why these two are so beloved and have totally earned their Hall of Fame inductions. Taker a few years ago, Triple H most recently this past weekend. So man, absolutely stuff. When I look back on this trilogy though, I will say this: I don't think this trilogy to me was industry changing. That's gonna be in our number one. This didn't change like the industry. Like, man, the industry is what it is today because of this trilogy. I can't say that honestly, but that doesn't make it bad. What this was here, I think this whole entire trilogy, this is a love letter to long-time loyal professional wrestling fans, a love letter to longtime WWE fans. I mentioned earlier, Triple H and Undertaker, they weren't the guys. They weren't Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin, the faces of their company, but what they were extremely strong sort of co-stars, extremely strong supporting people. Like Rock and Austin may have been the draw, depending on what type of WWE era you're watching. They were the draw, but people like Undertaker, people like Triple H, they kept you. Like, gosh, the Triple H and Rock feud, the Undertaker Austin feud, like Triple H and Taker, you wanted to see what these guys had going on in their career, even if they weren't sometimes the biggest reasons why you maybe were turning on, in terms of like when Rock and Austin, obviously as you get later on in their tenured, Triple H and Taker were definitely becoming like some of the big draws for why you may want to watch WrestleMania. But like when Rock and Austin were at their hottest, you wanted to see what Triple H and Taker had going on too, and that's kind of what I think. Like even that first match at WrestleMania 17, once again, Rock and Austin, they were the draw. That was the big main event for WrestleMania. But right under that, you wanted to see Triple H and the Undertaker go at it. And then when you get to those later matches, WrestleMania 27, 28, by that point, a lot of us had grew up. These, we were kids when they first fought at WrestleMania. We were young adults when, like in college when they were going into their last matches here. And when you look back on that, it felt like this is a way to really appreciate the fans of those era that have stuck around WWE. We're going to take you two of the people that you grew up watching and had been here the longest. We're going to treat the fans to an awesome emotional storytelling roller coaster. And that's kind of what I got out of that. That's why there's so much emotion out of any other trilogy on this match. I don't think there is one that is more emotional than this. You talk about timing, which I think fits perfectly into our number one, but this was more emotional, because if we were ranking this based on pure emotion, this wins number one. This was meant for all the fans that grew up watching. That's what I got out of this match. That's why there is so much to that Triple H and Taker, because we've seen these people grew up. We saw when they were younger, just two big, testosterone driven people to prove who they were, who was the better in the ring, to now this is about so much more. This is about my friend and his retirement. This is about me giving everything that I got left, what I got left. This is about me knowing that my career is down, but I need to prove it. And then, hey, this is about all three of us going to war one last time. And at the end, you know what? We respect what we've done and what we've done for these people. Like, to me, if you grew to really understand the importance of Triple H and Undertaker's rivalry, you had to have grown up watching these guys. That's why it meant so much when you get to end of an era. And that's why I said I love it. I love this trilogy, and to me, like I said, it didn't change the industry, but rather it was just one giant thank you to fans like us that grew up watching these guys, fans who have grown up in this era of wrestling. And I think that's what makes this so special, and I'm thankful for what the Undertaker and Triple H gave in their careers for us. So that's what I remember, and that type of emotion and the match quality for what these guys were able to do when they were younger, and still, even with the limitations, when their bodies had a lot of mileage, to still go out there and put on the type of matches that they were putting on and put their bodies through what they were doing. It's just fantastic, man. And that's why it easily surpasses what I think our third ranking did. Man 0001, you grew up watching these guys like I did. Why did you put the Undertaker Triple H? Well, how do you remember the Undertaker Triple H? Because I'm pretty sure we'll get into why we make our number one that one. But yeah, you put it at number two. Go ahead.
Okay.
Where's yours?
All right. So this feud right here is the battle of the facilitators. These are the guys that, they're not necessarily going to make it to anyone's all-time great list in terms of, marketability and everything else. These are guys that make money, and they've made some money, and they've also helped so many others make so much money for the business. These are people that help make stars. These are guys that have worked with so many generation of wrestlers. You have these are guys that worked with everyone from the Golden Age era, the New Generation era, the Attitude era, the Ruthless Aggression era, and these are guys that that worked with people in the Reality era, and so on and so forth. These are the guys that have facilitated the wrestling that we hear. These are the guys that have paved the way for all the wrestlers that we see. These are the,
And even
these are
behind the
the,
scenes now, they're helping out the current talent behind the
yeah,
scenes.
yeah. So these are the people that, they've gone on and they've done so much. It's like, both of them have wrestled, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair. They wrestled Seth Rollins, John Moxley, and Roman Reigns. These are guys who've wrestled the likes of CM Punk, and these are the guys who've gone on and they've gone on and they've had matches against so many of our past, present, and future stars of the industry. So this is these are the facilitators, and this is a battle of the gatekeepers. The King of Kings and the King of Kings. The cerebral assassin, the Game Triple H, and the Dead Man, Big Evil. The Dead Man, Big Evil, the American Badass himself, the Undertaker. These two guys are the gatekeepers and the facilitators. Once these guys put, because in this industry, these guys, once they put you over, once these guys put you over, you're pretty much a made man. Once you get in there and you become a made man, you become a superstar. I mean, you look at it, you look at all of the people that they faced, especially at WrestleMania. These are guys that even in defeat, they put you over and you go on to become a superstar in this industry. I mean, what I mean? Stands a couple, for the Undertaker, stands a couple of guys that are, his earlier WrestleMania opponents weren't all that exciting, but you look at WrestleMania 12. Let's see, and you guys, you look at WrestleMania 12, 13, 14. You got to miss 15, and then you go to WrestleMania 17. This right here is the Undertaker, putting on an all-time great here, at WrestleMania 17, and then you fast forward so many years later to fast forward 10 years later, and he's putting on an all-time great with Triple H again, and they do it again the next year. And and you truly have something there. And then you have them out there, and they're helping so much in the business. And these are guys that stay truly entrenched in the business. Like, these aren't guys that's leaving the business to go and do movies, or they're leaving because they're these are guys that literally wrote their careers till the wheels fell off. And true definition of hard work and sacrifice. So so definitely these are the facilitators, and these guys are, important in that fact, because without these guys, you wouldn't get the next two guys, in our, in our number one. Without these guys, what I mean? What would have made this probably a little bit better if they found out a way to incorporate Mick Foley into this. Because he was a stalwart of the Attitude of the New Generation era, the Attitude era, and the earlier portions of the Ruthless Aggression era. So, definitely, they found out a way to put Mick Foley into this. I mean, because I'm glad they incorporated Shawn Michaels into this, but I also think that Mick Foley should have been incorporated into this as well, because he was pivotal, and he was pivotal to all of these men's careers as well. Yeah, so yeah, definitely.
Indeed. Well said. Absolutely well said. So yeah, that's literally what I think about the legacy of this one. And now we move on to our